All right. Hello. Took a little bit longer to get on. I was trying to join via a different web browser that didn't support live streaming. So here we go. Hello, Haza. This is in there. Awesome. Check out my shirt. So today, just wanted to discuss this book, BreadTube Serves with an Aussie. My Australian accent is not very good. Gotta hold your nose. Nice. BreadTube Serves Imperialism by Caleb Maupin, and then the subtitle is Examining the New Brand of Internet Pseudo-Socialism, or you could say the, synthetic left, faux-gressives, if you will, like Baza instead of Barry. Nice. And so I'm about a little over halfway. I'm about 110 pages through this, and it is a 190-page book. So I just took notes of a few of the pages that I found comment worthy and just wanted to chat about those. Like the video, share the live stream if you want. Liking it helps with the algorithm. Let's see. Let's dive in. Actually, I'm gonna share the stream real quick on my Twitter, and subscribe for my Twitter. I can leave it in the comments if anybody is interested. Come join the live stream. All right, tweet is sent. Back to this. Awesome. 3 likes. Perfect. Okay. So the first page I marked down. So the book starts off, basically kind of going over some of the members of the supposed BreadTube community, socialism done left. Apparently he got kind of, revealed as not actually being on the left or as a socialist. Matt thought Slime hadn't heard of him until I read this passage in the book. Destiny, I've heard of him, another kind of neoliberal hack, I guess somewhat loosely related with the BreadTube community. Caleb Faraday Speakskin, another individual I haven't heard of, but I think he moderated like the debate between Caleb Maupin and Destiny, right? And then he was like, he's a member of the BreadTube community. And then talks about Dr. Steve Hassan, not how he's not part of the BreadTube universe, but lurks in the background, discussions about deprogramming, and he's about his books on cult mind control. Let's see. So I marked down page 48. My mistake. So talking about how, the BreadTube could be seen as this counter gang, kind of a style of counter revolution to uphold, capitalism from within, and to actually call out, actual anti-imperialist people who are, opposed to war and U.S. intervention. So this is quoting Caleb. Decades later, in conditions where information travels much faster, in the age of the internet, BreadTube appears to be yet another counter gang like the Khmer Rouge, UNITA, the Congress for Cultural Freedom, which he gets into later, or the various counterculture religious cults. It speaks in the name of left-wing sounding ideals in reality is most likely serving one section of the American ruling elite and the intelligence agency. So kind of referring to the, kind of obviously the liberal wing of that that's trying to uphold capitalism. In reality, covert support is most likely being provided in order to enable the algorithmic hacking that has allowed BreadTube to flourish as the primary left-wing voice online while waging a relentless campaign against others, because, for the most part, a lot of these folks associated with BreadTube, whether it be, I think, ContraPoints is one of the people, Destiny, Thought Slime, to my knowledge, I think they all have fairly large, followings and platforms. But, why is that happening? Maybe it's the algorithmic hacking, behind the scenes that's pushing this type of content and, throttling down content that is actual anti-imperialist in message and in nature. Things like, the Black Agenda Report, the Left Lens, Richard Medhurst, Mint Press News, etc. So, conclusion, an overview of the personalities, histories, and connections of various BreadTubers and affiliated personalities highlight certain similarities. None of them have any direct ties to any existing communist, anarchist, or socialist activist groups aside from perhaps DSA of America. No record of actual activism as Marxists, which makes sense because I don't think any of these people identify as Marxists, right? Can be found when looking over their public history. Much like AOC, they seem to have appeared out of nowhere to suddenly become representatives of left-wing politics. But again, these people aren't on the left because, as the title of this book says, they serve imperialism, and imperialism is inherently a right-wing thing. It's international. It's capitalism gone abroad. It's the highest stage of capitalism, as Lenin pointed out. While they do not have ties to Marxist, Leninist, or anarchist activist groups, they do have apparent ties to U.S. power structure. Their work is celebrated in mainstream U.S. media outlets. They are presented as safe kind of leftism and a needed counterbalance to the rise of Donald Trump. Some of them have odd skeletons in their closets. Natalie Wynn, I believe that's ContraPoints, sudden rise to prominence, vouches shady history in relation to topics like child pornography. Yeah, I've seen some of his tweets about that. Like, really just, like, what the fuck? And lack of charisma. The criminal conviction of Matt Thought Slime's mother and his fixation on topics like suicide and self-harm. Again, not super familiar with any of these people's content, so I'm going to have to, trust, I guess, Caleb Maupin's impression of this. Destiny's shift from libertarian to social democrat, followed by a celebration of right-wing attacks on protesters, mysterious social media, history of socialism done left. Caleb Kame's celebrated status as an ex-right-wing extremist, despite any real history of right-wing activism. All of these indicate that BreadTube has powerful allies who are using them to serve a purpose other than a communist revolution. So I think obviously the purpose he is alluding to here would be to, prop up this synthetic, like prop up upholding capitalism and maybe just, instituting some tweaks around the edges while, supporting imperialism and, capitalism in the U.S. The main problem with BreadTube is not that it dissects the ideas of the far right. This is largely a noble task, though it is sometimes very poorly executed due to the ideological limitations of those who avoid offending the liberal order. The main problem with BreadTube is that it is blatantly miseducating people and misrepresenting key concepts of Marxism, socialism, and communism. Esha, her channel is historically, she covers a lot of history like Caleb. I'll have to check it out. BreadTube does not seek to make those exploring those concepts in a time of economic crisis into revolutionaries and anti-imperialists. And why would they? Because they're neither of those things. No worries. Rather, they seek to make them into something much like they are, foot soldiers of the liberal order. They embolden the most powerful capitalists in their efforts to maintain power, beat back anti-imperialist states, and suppress unrest and rebellion at home. Deconstructing the various misrepresentations and delusions presented by BreadTube in order to achieve this goal will be the purpose of the remaining pages of the book. Okay. And then, so kind of interesting. So the whole, BreadTube gets their name by the anarchist kind of thinker and, I guess activist at the time, long since deceased, Peter Kropotkin. The Conquest of Bread was his book, often nicknamed the Bread Book, considered a primary text of, anarcho-communism. In that book, Kropotkin critiqued feudalism and capitalism. This is from Caleb. I haven't read this book yet, but it'd probably be interesting. And it sounds like maybe a lot of people in the BreadTube sphere haven't read it either. Let's see. Yeah, so Caleb's talking about the major difference that Kropotkin had with the Bolsheviks was about who in Russian society should be the focus of the revolutionary movement. Kropotkin thought it should be the peasants, not the presents, and the Bolsheviks thought it, should be the workers, the industrial workers. Yeah, so kind of a difference that Kropotkin had there. Kropotkin was all about, his idea of a society decentralized, voluntary socialism with vast abundance, which is fine. But again, like, you can't just create anarchism out of thin air. That's not going to work. That's why you need socialism as this transition stage between, a capitalist economic order like we have in the United States, instituting socialism through a dictatorship of the proletariat, and then working to create, this communist society, which again, just means a classless and stateless society. But you kind of need that in-between stage to get to that, right? And that's something a lot of these, anarchists or anarcho-communists don't seem to really understand, I think. No worries for interrupting. Like the video if you can, share it. That helps get it out to more folks. So then Caleb goes into the Marxist definition of capitalism, which is really important, and just does it. And his writing is very, very easy to understand. I appreciate that about it. And he's able to kind of cut down in these, what can often be, difficult subjects to understand, and makes them very easily digestible, which I really appreciate. So now he goes into the Marxist definition of capitalism, which is, put simply, quote, the capitalist system is defined as a system of production for profit. So in order to get rid of capitalism, you need to get rid of this profit system and institute a socialist system where the societal needs, the material conditions of people are put at the forefront. We get rid of profit because, again, an economic system that is based on profit, such as capitalism, doesn't look after the needs of the people. It looks after creating more and more profit for the capitalist class, for the shareholders, for the military industrial complex, etc. So that's why you have this, dialectics. In the United States, we have, millions of houses sitting unused, and yet we have homeless people on the street who can't get access to that housing. That is that, dialectical, materialism, where just the insanity of capitalism. We have, millions of people going hungry, yet 40% of our food goes to waste because it's more profitable under a capitalist system to let people starve than it would be to give them that food, that is being thrown out at grocery stores, restaurants all across the country. So important to keep that in mind. Capitalism is an economic system of production designed to create profit. And then this is just a really good parable I like. Son, father, I am very cold. Why can't we light the stove? Father, we cannot light the stove because we don't have any coal. Son, why don't we have any coal? Father, because I lost my job at the coal mine and we do not have any money to purchase coal. Son, why did you lose your job at the coal mine? Father, because there's too much coal. I mean, it's pretty on point, right? And then he goes into, talking about how, it's on page 62, imperialism is the capitalism of our time. Then he says, much of BreadTube's discussion of capitalism centers around the inequity of relations between employers and employees. This is certainly a very big aspect of Marxian analysis of capitalism. Marx described the alienating environment of the workers, the way workers are reduced to appendages of machines. Definitely, agree there. Alienation is inherent to capitalism. However, the bulk of Marx's analysis was focused on the problems that flow from production being organized for profits, as shown above. And then, let's see, he gets into the different stages of imperialism that Lenin talked about, and then the Marxist definition of socialism. So, yeah, and then he gets into the higher stage of socialism, or the highest stage of communism, which would be, full communist society, and the lower stage, this transition stage, being, socialism, where the proletariat institutes a dictatorship of the proletariat, so the needs of the vast majority are able to be met, as opposed to a dictatorship of the bourgeoisie or the capitalist class, which we currently have in the United States, which obviously only serves the need of the select few, the very wealthy and powerful, while everybody else is basically, left to die, fight for scraps in this very precarious, economic order and system that we have. Let's see. So here's Engels. Quote, whilst the capitalist mode of production more and more completely transformed the great majority of the population into proletarians, creates the power which, under penalty of its own destruction, is focused to accomplish this revolution. Whilst, that's a great word, right? Whilst it forces on more and more the transformation of vast means of production already socialized into state property, it shows itself the way to accomplishing this revolution. The proletariat seizes political power and turns the means of production into state property, so instituting socialism. This is again from Engels, Frederick Engels. Quote, in every crisis, society is suffocated beneath the weight of its own productive forces and products, which it cannot use, and stands helpless face to face with the absurd contradiction that the producers have nothing to consume because consumers are wanting. Again, that goes back to how in the US, millions, tens of millions, people don't have enough food to eat, including, children. Just how disgusting is that? While there's more than enough food to feed everybody in the US on Earth. That contradiction, that dialectic. So, and then here's Lenin talking about the first phase of communism or socialism. The first phase of communism, therefore, cannot yet provide justice and equality. Differences and unjust difference in wealth will still persist. He then goes on to make clear, and so in this first phase of communist society, usually called socialism, bourgeoisie law is not abolished in its entirety, but only in part, only in proportion to the economic revolution so far attained, i.e., only in respect of the means of production. Bourgeoisie law recognizes them as the private property of individuals. Socialism converts them into common property. To that extent alone, bourgeoisie law disappears. And then he gets into critiquing BreadTube on the grounds that Marx wasn't a statist, and uses Marx's own words to actually call them out for this. So he talks about how Matt Slime insists that Marx and Engels never called for a centrally planned economy, which again is, kind of a really important factor for actually having a socialist economy, is that it's centrally planned. It's planned for the needs of the people, for the society, for the greater good of the masses, which they have a centrally planned economy. In China, they've been able to eliminate extreme poverty in that country. They've been able to develop, massive infrastructure plans, etc. So centrally planned economies work. I mean, for God's sakes, look what China has been able to do. They've lifted 800 million people out of poverty since the revolution in 1949. 59. Let me know what year it was if I'm mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it was one of those years. 800 million people out of poverty. They've eliminated extreme poverty in that country very recently, but we need to villainize China in the CPC. I mean, Jesus Christ. Some delicious spring water I got earlier today. So he's calling out Matt Slime, saying that Marx and Engels never called for a centrally planned economy. Let's see. Then he calls out Vausch for the same thing. Marx, quote, Marx wasn't a statist, according to Ian Vausch Koczynski. And this is Caleb. To justify this, he utilizes a quotation from Marx's Civil War in France. Matt Slime also invokes this quote, where Marx proclaims the working class cannot simply lay hold of the ready-made state machinery and wield it for its own purposes, which is a very select kind of misrepresentation of that quote. And then he lays it out further, or Caleb does, showing the full quote in its context, because that's not what Marx was trying to say there. This was Marx talking about the Paris Commune of 71. This briefly existing regime that took power in Paris after the capitalist government had already surrendered to the Prussian invaders is considered by Marx to be the first historical example of his concept, dictatorship of the proletariat. Marx points to the Commune not as an example of why states are not necessary, but rather for the lessons it taught about what post-capitalist states could look like. My oven is beeping. I will be back in 1 second. Let me know what you think of my commentary and what you've heard of this book so far. Just got to turn some potatoes so they don't burn. I'll be right back. Hot potatoes. Not the best time to be cooking potatoes, but here we are, nonetheless. Get over. What's happening? Okay, another 30. Oh. Yeah, little zucchini action. All right, thank you for the patience. Also cooked some homegrown zucchinis earlier with some homegrown garlic and salt and pepper. That wasn't homegrown. Let's see how they're Super good. If you're on the stream, like the video. That helps the algorithms. And yeah, share if you like. I'm gonna leave anybody is interested in becoming a patron. I'm gonna grab the link for that. Let's see, where are we at here? But yeah, probably wasn't the best day for me to run the oven here. It's like 90 degrees close to in the lovely Pacific Northwest, but I'm running the oven because I needed to cook that. Zucchini and those potatoes as well. Damn, this thing's going slow. Oh well, I'll try to get that. I told you. My partner, I think, might be on the stream too. Hopefully she better be liking it and sharing it, and she's actually the only patron I have at this point, but one's better than none, right? View your public page, boom, copy, and boom. If you're so interested. Okay, back to our book. Let's see. So then this is Caleb talking about how Bausch and Thought Slime are misrepresenting this quote from Marx, trying to claim that Marx wasn't a statist. A particular quote refers to the fact the existing French state had been created to serve capitalism. The Paris communards who led the workers' uprising were forced to create new state institutions, not simply seize control of the previously existing ones created by capitalism. Marx spends the following paragraphs describing in detail the nature of the new proletarian forms of state power the communards created and praising them. To claim this quote means Marx opposed states existing at all is laughable. Here's the entire passage from Marx so we can judge for ourselves. Quote, but the working class cannot simply lay hold of the ready-made state machinery and wield it for its own purposes. The centralized state power with its ubiquitous organs of standing army, police, bureaucracy, clergy, and judicature, organs wrought after the plan of a systematic and hierarch division of labor, originates from the days of absolute monarchy, serving nascent middle-class society as a mighty weapon in its struggle against feudalism. Still, its development remained clogged by all manner of medieval rubbish, seigneurial rights, local privileges, municipal and guild monopolies, and provincial. I'm only sub to 2 people. Medhurst, lowest level $2, and Chelsea Manning's highest because she said she was broke. Yeah, I need a sub to some more people on Patreon as well. I think the only one I have is Danny Haifong, contributing editor at the Black Agenda Report. But I'd like to support more people. I think it's a good way to support leftist and anti-imperialist message. So Medhurst would probably be a good one. Black Agenda Report in general, maybe the Gray Zone, that type of thing. Let's see. So further down, this is again Marx. The commune was formed of the municipal councillors chosen by universal suffrage in the various wards of the town, responsible and revocable at short terms. Like that sounds pretty awesome. Majority of its members were naturally working men or acknowledged reps of the working class. I have $1 or $2 when I might consider, okay, maybe I'll go back in and change that. The commune was to be a working, not a parliamentary body, executive and legislative at the same time. Public functions ceased to be the private property of the tools of the central government. Not only municipal admin, but the whole initiative hitherto exercised by the state was laid into the hands of the commune. The unity of the nation was not to be broken, but, on the contrary, to be organized by the communal constitution and to be a reality by the destruction of the state power, which claimed to be the embodiment of that unity, independent of and superior to the nation itself, from which it was but a parasitic excrescence. Then this is Caleb again. Quote, what Vosh claims about his cherry-picked quotation is nothing but blatant distortion. I mean, I think that's pretty clear from, the actual elongated passage from Marx here. Either Koczynski was handed this quote by someone else and never bothered to look at the context, or he intentionally misrepresented its meaning with deceptive intent. I mean, I could see either one happening there with Bosch. Definitely doesn't seem to be a very honest actor. And then, so he also now gets into how, a lot of these BreadTube folks will talk about, basically, that we don't need to get rid of the profit motive. Profits aren't what's bad. We can still have like socialism with a profit motive, but Caleb gets into how that doesn't make any sense. So like, what if you had a complete worker co-op of the health insurance industry, or at Raytheon or General Dynamics or GE? So then you would have all of those workers trying to increase the profits, of the weapons manufacturers that they work for, or the, completely disgusting for-profit health insurance company. They would now be, worker cooperatives. So they would be fighting, to fuck people over more to increase the profit. So it's like, no, worker co-ops, not the solution that BreadTube thinks they would be. The subtitle of this chapter is Maintaining Profits at Command. This is a quote from Bausch. Quote, everything would be exactly the same except every corporation would be a worker cooperative, which again, it's not going to solve anything because profits will still be in command. The needs to generate more and more profits, infinitely, that's inherent to capitalism. You can't have a system that has profits in command look after the well-being of the vast majority. That's why you need socialism. That's why you need that lower stage of communism that they call socialism, in order to be able to, get to that communist level, that classless and stateless level. But you need that, intermediate step. So good. About 20 minutes in there, some garlic cut up, and then some salt and pepper. Super good. What are you eating for dinner tonight? I'm gonna text my partner and see if she's on here. If she'll comment. Are you watching? Are you watching still? Always offer for her to come on. She never wants to. I don't know why. And again, this isn't to say that worker co-ops are bad or anything like that, but it's to say that no, like, if profit is still in command, worker co-ops are not going to solve any of the problems that we currently have due to this economic system. She's quiet because you didn't give a shout out to your patrons at the start of the show. Fair point. Thank you, Rosa, for being a Patreon. If you are in here, comment, let me know. Yes, thank you for being a Patreon. So again, worker co-ops, not inherently bad, but not this panacea that people like Bausch pointed out as being. And then also, I didn't even know this, which is very interesting, but not surprising, that, you know, the most successful worker, the most successful example of a profit-sharing corporation that BreadTube avoids highlighting is Huawei. Quote, this is quoting Caleb, the largest telecommunications manufacturer in the world is Huawei Technologies, a cooperative corp established by the Chinese government and its military in 1988. An article in Harvard Business Review published on September 24, 2015 hails it as a case study of when profit sharing works and speaks of the company in glowing terms. In the context of China's 5-year economic plans, receiving huge subsidies and directions from the state and military, Huawei has become very successful. The model of worker ownership, profit sharing, and coordination with state, central planning, and a socialist economy has made Huawei a model that many corps in the capitalist world have studied. Huawei is widely respected for its efficiency and success. Of course, BreadTube voices largely remain silent on Huawei and take the lead from the U.S. State Department, deeming anything associated with China or other anti-imperialist states to be toxic and evil. And then you say, you know, these same people honestly are probably parodying the same bullshit. Mac and cheese. Ooh, that sounds good. Let's say must be nice. She is out of the state right now, so I'm left to fend for myself. So hence we're doing the live stream. But yeah, I didn't know that about Huawei, which is pretty. Did that send? Yeah, which is pretty interesting. But like I was saying, I bet these same BreadTube people are probably using these State Department talking points, claiming that China is committing genocide against the Uyghurs, when there is no. Oh, I have a frozen vegan pad thai. Ooh, that sounds yummy. Pad thai is delicious. Are you vegan, or you just like the vegan pad thai? Yeah, then he goes on to, let's see, yeah, talk about another subtitle in this chapter, the myth, vegan stuff, yeah, me too, the myth of the 20th century and how everybody likes to talk shit about the USSR and not really point out how it was able to achieve so much. Also went into Richard Wolff, Dr. Richard Wolff, the Marxist economist, how he had a debate with Stephen Destiny Bonnell. And again, like, oh man, kudos to you for doing that, Richard Wolff, because I just I've seen a couple of clips from that, and Destiny was absolutely made a fool of himself there. So this is Richard Wolff responding to Destiny's bullshit when they debated. Quote, I have no idea. This was talking about how, socialism has never been successful. Socialist countries have never done anything good. They're all horrible. And this is Richard Wolff replying to, Destiny, parodying that bullshit. Quote, I have no idea what the silly remark that I so often hear that no socialist country has succeeded at anything. I have no idea what you're talking about. Let me give you one example. One of the most important metrics used in the economics profession around the world to assess the success of an economic system is the rate of economic growth. You measure GDP and you look at how it grows over time, and then you compare one country to another to assess the relative success, not a society's, because that's a vague generality. Yeah, what does that mean? It's not the only metric, but it's a widely used one, so I'm now going to use it. In the 20th century, the fastest growing GDP in any country measured was the Soviet Union. And in the 21st century we're living in, the fastest growing GDP in the world has been, what do you think it is? Guess. What do you think it is? I'll answer. Ding, ding, ding. People's Republic of China. Yep. Got it right. This is not an endorsement of one or another economic system. It's a statement of fact verified by any reliable source of info. The UN project of the University of California at Berkeley and others who keep track of this. Bonnell quibbled, this is back to Caleb, Bonnell quibbled trying to say that Japan had been more successful than the Soviet Union and the industrialization of the USSR was irrelevant because many countries underwent similar growth at the time. Wolf further ripped this illogic to shreds, proclaiming, quote, "Those are the facts. You can play whatever games you want. The fact of the matter is that the Soviet Union's performance in the 20th century completely outshines that of Japan. 1917, when the Soviet Union began, it was the poorest country in Europe by far. It then goes through 70 years of World War I, of a civil war, of collectivization, and World War II, which did more damage in Russia than any other country. Sidebar, the United States did not win World War II. The Soviets did. What was it, like 27 million people in the Soviet Union died as a result of fighting in World War II. The communists won World War II. It wasn't the West. Notwithstanding that it was the poorest country at the beginning of this horrific story, it ends up in 1965 being the number one competitor of the U.S. for global hegemony. It's only because of its number one status in economic growth that it achieved the overcoming of all those horrific losses. I'm not arguing in favor of this or that about the Soviet Union, but the fact of its achievement is a staggering reality. You can dance around today and tomorrow, but it doesn't go away because it's inconvenient to confront it. Same thing is true now. If you read Pearl Buck's novels about China before the revolution, you'll read about a society whose depth of poverty literally blows your mind. And here, they are about to surpass the U.S. by the end of this decade, and that was accomplished by a communist revolution and government that is run by a communist party to this day. And then Caleb goes on, quote, "BreadTube's insistence that socialism is merely a worker cooperative scheme reveals further the thesis of this book. BreadTube is largely the creation of the more powerful globalist wing of the ruling class's efforts to beat back the rebellions of Trump and lower-level capitalists. The pro-imperialist narrative where communist revolutions only made life worse is repeated by BreadTube voices despite being overwhelmingly inconsistent with reality. Because BreadTube targets the same governments that the U.S. State Department targets. I mean, look at Bausch, for instance, on China, holding water for the water for the war crimes that the Trump administration created or leveled in Syria because of that, OPCW cover-up scandal. So again, it's Bausch holding water for, State Department talking points on that. Yeah. And again, this is never, just like Richard Wolff was saying, like, not to say that everything was perfect in USSR or perfect in China now, but we can learn from all of these socialist, communist governments and systems around the world, whether it's in Cuba, Nicaragua, China, North Korea, and take the good parts and try to apply it, try to build that up, try to improve the material conditions where we live, whether that's, in the U.S. or outside of it. And like just how disgusting that is for people to say nothing good came of the Soviet Union. I mean, you really got to be drunk on U.S. propaganda and Red Scare to believe that stuff, right? Here, going into China, they have their 5-year economic plan. So a centrally planned, economy that is, inherently a part of a socialist economic, production system. China has become the second largest economy on earth, lifting 800 million people out of poverty. And then it goes into Cuba. Cuba's achievement. So they have universal health care. They have universal higher education for everybody there. Where do we not have that? 90 miles to the north in the United States, all the while Cuba's been able to do this while the U.S. has been trying to, overthrow this socialist government, the socialist revolutionary government, since, multiple decades since it came into power. I mean, Jesus Christ. And then, I don't know if he talks about it in here, but Libya was a highly the most prosperous country in Africa before the U.S.-led invasion, war of aggression, war of regime change there in 2011 under Obama. Again, it had nothing to do with promoting human rights or democracy. It's because the Gaddafi and Libya was a socialist government-leaning country, actually looking out for the well-being of the people. So, of course, they had to be toppled. Same thing in, Iraq as well. Yeah, so I mean, there's lots of examples. Yeah, so like I said, he went over the myth of the 20th century, how nothing good happened, from the BreadTube's perspective in these, communist socialist countries. He debunked how BreadTube claims Marx wasn't a statist. And then chapter 3, it's called Nazi, Nazi, Nazi with exclamation points after each word. And basically, how a lot of, BreadTube, it seems like, or people kind of aligned with that worldview will, say Red Brown Alliance or Nazbol, which I'm assuming that means like Nazi Bolshevik alliance, right? Which is just completely fucking ridiculous, given that, the communists, the USSR, was instrumental in defeating the actual fucking Nazis during World War II, and communists, whether it be in the US or internationally, have tended to always be on the right side of social justice issues. But no, it's the socialists, it's the communists who are the real, Nazis. I mean, Jesus Christ. Let's see. Okay, and then, yeah, they talk about some of the people who were making up the attendance at the January 6th, riot insurrection attempt at the Capitol. Lots of anti-communist folks from Miami, exiled rich from Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Bolivia were at the rally echoing Rudy Giuliani's claim that U.S. elections had been rigged by communists. If it had been rigged by communists, why the fuck would they rig it for Joe Biden? I mean, that makes no sense, right? But this was a pro-imperialist mob. He talks about the Proud Boys, just they're Western chauvinists as well, just like Bosch. They talk about how the West is the best. And they were blaming the rigging of the vote were the Chinese communists and the Bolivarian socialists. Like, this is how literally disconnected these right-wing nut jobs are from reality. They think the Chinese communists and the Bolivarian socialists were rigged the 2020 presidential election in the U.S. to prop up fucking Joe Biden. I mean, Jesus Christ. If that was the case, wouldn't they have maybe propped up, a Green Party candidate or a socialist candidate or fucking Bernie Sanders or something? I mean, Jesus Christ. Let's see. And then he goes in to talk about the, there's all these different definitions of what fascism is out there. And then, he talks about the BreadTube narrative is populism and socialist governments around the world are just another variant of this evil, the equivalent of fascism. When the ignorant and fear working people are rising up and demanding that the state protect them, rallying around a charismatic leader, this is a threat to the non-conformity and freedom of the superior caste, cosmopolitan intellectuals. This bizarre narrative that views average Americans as the enemy and equates social states that control the means of production with Nazi gas chambers has nothing to do with Marxism. However, is not new as a narrative that was carefully cultivated by the Congress for Cultural Freedom and covert manipulation of intellectual discourse throughout the Cold War, and that's obviously still happening. BreadTube has taken this toxic narrative to a new, far more illogical and far more absurd level in an attempt to defend the liberal order from right-wing opposition. And then, again, I saw the debate during that Bausch had with Jackson Hinkle, where he was basically, saying people who are covering the OPCW cover-up are the equivalent to people who deny the Holocaust. So there's definitely some evidence of the BreadTube Spear people connected with that worldview and outlook, equating people who call out U.S. imperialism, U.S. empire, with being actual Nazis or people that deny the Holocaust, and just how disgusting that is. And then he talks about fascism in this book, Fascism and Social Revolution, written by the British communist intellectual R. Palm Dutt in 1934 after Hitler took power. Dutt explained what fascism is in practice, quote, to endeavor to strangle the powers of production, to arrest development, to destroy material and human forces, to fetter international exchange, to check science and invention, to crush the development of ideas and thought, and to concentrate in the organization of limited, self-sufficient, non-progressive, hierarch societies in a state of mutual war. In short, to force back society to a more primitive stage in order to maintain the existing class domination. I mean, definitely, I think you can see that fascist streak in the United States right now. In order to maintain the existing class domination, look how much the police beat back on people protesting for racial, environmental, or economic rights. Look at the social media censorship, both by these big tech corporations and at the behest of the state as well. And then he goes on, this is the path of fascism, the path to which the bourgeoisie in all modern countries where it rules is increasingly turning, the path of human decay. And we see that human decay very much alive and well in the United States right now, unfortunately. He goes on, fascism, this is Dutt, fascism in this specific or narrower sense is marked by definite familiar characteristics. In the case of the fascist movements, by the characteristics of terrorism, extra-legal fighting formations, anti-parliamentarism, national and social demagogy, etc. In the case of the completed fascist dictatorships, by the suppression of all other parties and orgs, and in particular the violent suppression of all independent working class orgs, the reign of terror, the totalitarian state, etc. And I feel like we can definitely see the violent suppression of all independent working class orgs in the United States, right? I mean, both historically and in our current times as well. I mean, look at corporate media, the synthetic left not covering the 50 events that happened last weekend, the people marching for Medicare for all. Coverage of that was suppressed. Why do you think? To enable, this class domination to continue to exist. Wow, that was a quick 30 minutes for those potatoes. I will rejoin you once again. I'm going to
Just leave those in the oven with the door open. I think they should be fairly close to done. I don't necessarily want to open the oven again because of the heat. Because you talk so much. My partner just texted me, because you talk so much. Well, there's a lot of worthy stuff to talk about. And, well, you could put that in the chat. Why don't you put it in the chat? Share your thoughts with everybody. And then he talks about, this is Dutt, fascism, how fascism doesn't achieve power through struggle, but rather is called upon by the power structure after a long period of grooming. Quote, this is Dutt. Fascism has never conquered power in any country. In every case, fascism has been placed in power from above by the bourgeoisie dictatorship. In Italy, fascism was placed in the power by the king, who refused to sign the decree of martial law against it, and invited Mussolini to power. Mussolini's legendary March on Rome took place in a wagon-lit sleeping car. In Germany, fascism was placed in power by the president at a time when it was heavily sinking in support of the country, as shown by the elections. The bourgeoisie, in fact, has in practice placed power from one hand to the other and called it a revolution, while the only reality has been the intensified oppression of the working class. After the establishment of the full fascist dictatorship, the policy has still been more openly and completely the policy, despite a show of a few gestures of assistance to small capital, most unlimited and ruthless policy of monopolist capital. I mean, hard to argue that that's not an accurate depiction of affairs in the U.S. or, to Western countries in general, but particularly the U.S. The whole machinery of fascism mercilessly turned against those of its former supporters who have been innocent enough to expect some anti-capitalist action and called for a second revolution. Then he talks about how, some people just, the myth of fascist ideology and aesthetics. Talks about the Congress of Cultural Freedom, formed in 1949. It's association of left-wing artists, scientists, academics who opposed communism. And this, again, was funded by the CIA and the Trotskyite Irving Kristol, associate of Max Shachtman, who later became known as the father of neoconservatism. And this Cultural Congress of Cultural Freedom, 1949, was supposedly one of the CIA's most successful operations. So they subsidized, these different magazines such as Partisan Review, Encounter, Paris Review, and Dharma Not. Circulated through the U.S. and Britain. Theodore Adorno, Marxist intellectual. His work was subsidized and promoted. So again, nothing super surprising here. And that's about as far as I've let's see. Oh, what is this part? So then he talks about Natalie Wynn's fascists. What does he say here? Check out this methyl plum. So good. Got like 10, 15 pounds of these. One tree. And there's still a lot more. Okay, what are we talking about? ContraPoints here. Oh, I guess Caleb's saying this ContraPoints person had a video. I just got a nectarine. Oh, nice. Flowering now. Must live in a pretty warm climate zone because we had a nectarine tree at one point
it died. Kind of got to go to the east of our state to have any success with things like peaches or nectarines. So you must live in a pretty warm climate zone, right? But like fresh nectarines, super good. Same with peaches. Pretty much any fruit. Temperate. Oh, interesting. But pretty much any San Diego. Okay, well that makes more sense. Yeah, I think you could definitely get away with growing that stuff in San Diego. I think you could even grow citrus here, but inverse seasons. Oh, are you in the southern hemisphere then? That would make sense. The down under. Oh, nice. Which part? These are good things. What part of Australia is it? Oh, shoot. God darn it, I forget. But there's this one part that a lot of people are always talking about for like how good the cycling is and the vegan restaurants and all that stuff. So the climate's pretty mild, that part of Australia that you're in? Melbourne, okay. How do you like living in Australia? Let me look up a map of Melbourne. Map of Australia. Oh, this map horrible, way too small. Let me zoom in. Melbourne. Okay, so that's like down at the southern end of Australia, right? Adelaide. That's the one I've heard about is Adelaide. Heard good things about Adelaide. Five Eyes State. What is that? Australia, US, Britain, France, Germany? Is that Five Eyes? Include twice. So the climate's pretty mild in Melbourne, huh? Canada. Okay, that makes sense. Hobart. So it doesn't get super hot in Melbourne? That's nice. I mean, how cool would it be if, you know, you could get, I'm in Perth. Oh, yeah, Perth. Okay, I see Perth. On the west side there. It gets hot here. Yeah, and I imagine it's probably been getting hotter, right, with climate change. That's something I noticed where I live. It's like a month ago we had 3 days, 100+ degree temperatures, when usually like never experienced that in my 3+ decades living here, and that stuff's going to keep getting worse. 2 million though?
Or does that M mean something else? I mean, that does look, yeah, pretty disconnected from a lot of other cities on the continent. And Australia has some form of universal health care, correct? And not quite like a British style system. The winters are getting worse, like as far as like warmer. Oh, 2 million, that's a pretty big city. Also similar to what Britain has for public ownership of public hospitals. Oh, more flooding. Yeah. Yeah, it's like you see all of these things being caused by climate change, and it seems like for the most part on a systemic level nothing is really being done about it, even though it's kind of important to address, because kind of important to have a habitable planet to live on. I guess maybe just all of the capitalist class is just planning on going into, you know, outer space and colonizing Mars or something. Oh, so do you still have public health care though, even after that? Or, I mean, Canada to the north has it. Cuba to the south of Florida has it. And I heard like that's when things, even like conservatives in Canadian government and parliament, it's one thing they can't even touch in their country is trying to get rid of the public healthcare system in Canada. And that's how right-wing and absolutely backwards that the U.S. system is. Even during a pandemic, we couldn't get universal health care in this country. I mean, we couldn't even get the shitty compromise of a public option, for God's sakes. Kept the private insurance too. So almost would it be kind of similar to what Biden was proposing with the public option, like not outline private insurance, but if you wanted to get on the public system, then you could, jump on that, which obviously is pretty problematic in my view. Like there should be no profit motive whatsoever in literally taking care of people, because like that's disgusting. Like, again, going back to the profit motive, what is this? I don't know if to delete. How do you delete these? That's not cool. Delete. No room for that type of bullshit. Hate in there. Abraham Lincoln. Not sure if I can block people, but I'm gonna have to do it, I think. How do we block? Report. Hate speech or hate speech or graphic violence. Say harassment. Well, no, that's definitely hate speech. Well, I reported them. What are we getting? How do we? They keep coming on in different users, though. How do I? Hide user? Maybe hide user? Okay, cool. So that is very. Look at that, like a bunch of bots. Yeah. Okay, hide that one. All right. I mean, Jesus Christ. Why can't you block on your own channel? Not sure. The only options I was seeing, it says report, remove, put user in time, unhide. So I was just hiding them because obviously I don't want to be
seeing that fucking hate speech. Okay, bye. Would like to let hate speech sidetrack me from what I was rambling on about. Oh, yeah, just how right-wing. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, hiding. They can't comment anymore on it, which is very weird. Why? What? Like how? Like what is wrong with people? They go on somebody's channel and just hate speech. Like really, that's what you're gonna do with your time. I'm all for, you know, arguing and going back and forth on stuff, but ridiculous. In AU, everyone gets the public system and must pay for it, but you have the option of private. Now, is it free at the point of service, or do you main pay for it through like taxes? So besides having universal health care there, taxes, that makes sense. How would you describe the, like, is there a pretty robust social safety net besides that? Is university, also funded through taxes, so you could go to, college if you wanted, and the state would pay for it? I bet they have probably maternity and paternity leave in Australia, something we also don't have in the United States, which is just egregious. George Washington. Damn, George Washington. I mean, I wouldn't be super surprised if George Washington or Thomas Jefferson said that stuff, because, I mean, again, they were... remove that too, that's fucked. Hide user. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I would think that Thomas Jefferson or George Washington, I could see them saying this bullshit, because, I mean, they owned slaves, they were white supremacists, they were just rich, racist assholes, basically. Thought the same thing about George Washington or Thomas Jefferson, that like maybe they like came back up from hell to say that or something. I know the whole, how we're all supposed to be so, I don't know, celebratory of the quote unquote founding fathers of the United States, like, just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I think if you actually look at the history of those people and what they did, because frankly, I mean, anybody that literally owned human beings as property should not be looked up to in any way. The American exceptionalism package, yeah, exactly. That is a good book by Danny Haiphong and Robert Servant, The Myth of, I think it's called The Myth of American Exceptionalism, a history of fake news from something to something. But yeah. But damn. Yeah, I mean, we should, it's like they teach us we should be looking up to George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, but Joseph Stalin, he was horrible. Like Mao, they were horrible. There's no redeeming qualities for, what they were able to achieve, in their countries. But George Washington, yeah, this dude's fucking, he's awesome. He's awesome. Oh man. Yeah, so I got about 70-ish pages left in this book.
I'm really looking forward to having a break from school here and being able to devote some more time to reading, working in the garden, creating some of this lovely and blabbersome, but I think important in a lot of ways, content. It's fun to chat. Private schools get better government funding. Interesting. Oh man. Hopefully those potatoes cooked. I'm gonna go grab the rest of the zucchini because I am a little bit hungry. I feel like if you just thought that, like, is he wearing a MAGA shirt? No, it's Make America Not Racist for the first time. I got this at Melanin Apparel. Obviously, appreciate the sentiment, but it should really say Make America Not, or I should say Make America Anti-Racist for the first time, because as Ibram X. Kendi points out in his book, not racist doesn't really mean anything. It's kind of just a vague, generality, while anti-racist, there is, clear, actions that you could take to try to embody that message. But I digress. Let's go get some zucchinis. More zucchinis. I feel like zucchini is a very underrated vegetable. No, sorry. It'd actually be considered a fruit because the seeds. See it that one better? See those seeds? So I consider this actually very, very healthy. No oil, no added fat. Nothing wrong with fat, but obviously you're going to get your fat. It should be from whole food sources like, almonds, peanuts, cashews, hemp seeds, flax seeds, avocados, etc. But zucchini actually a fruit. Find it pretty easy to grow for the most part, as long as I'm able to keep slugs away from it. Very versatile, as I was saying. Could bake it, could steam it, could put it in a stir fry. You can make zucchini relish out of it. This recipe we have, oh my god, it's so good. And for that, they don't have to be small like this one was, because if you let the zucchinis get really big and then try to eat it fresh or cook it, it's going to be kind of chewy and gross. You want them when they're smaller. So zucchini relish, barbecue is really delicious. Zucchini bread, pretty easy to grow. I have some. All the ones I got this year from pots, just in our little backyard, pots and grow bags, and get zucchinis, and they mature pretty quickly, and each plant will usually at least produce a few, if not more. Give it good soil, give it water, give it a big enough space to spread its wings and make its fruit, and you're going to be having some delicious food. You just got to find how you want to consume it. But how amazing would it be if, the government would pay people, the state would pay people to plant gardens, start food forests, ride their bikes instead of driving places, walk, use public transit. How amazing would that be if you incentivize like these behaviors that are good for ourselves and good for the planet? Because something's good for the planet, it's good for ourselves. Something's good for us, it's also going to be good for the planet. right? So one thing I really feel guilty about when I ride on an airplane is how much pollution it's generating. That's why I try to do it very infrequently, but do hopefully have an awesome trip with the family somewhere around this time next year once I'm done with grad school to visit another country. To add my list, what would be 3 different places you would like to visit if you could? Let me know. 3 people says they're watching right now. So Rosa, whoever else is in there probably, unless she fell asleep. Talking about wanting to go, well, these are my ideas. Open to others though. Cuba would be really amazing to see what life is actually like there. Try to hopefully learn a little bit of Spanish in that time in order to, at least, have, very small, conversation would be kind of neat. Just learn a little bit, few, conversational words and whatnot, and see what life is really like in that country that's always, demonized through, the U.S. government and their puppets in the media and people on the synthetic left as well. Again, Cuba exports doctors and healthcare workers to all over the world. Was the United States empire export? Destruction, bombs, sanctions, death, regime change. Cuba sends doctors, so I'd love to go visit Cuba. China, I think, would be really amazing as well. Go see what, socialism with Chinese characteristics actually looks like in reality. I think that would be amazing. Huge country. I think they have those bullet trains there, right? 300 kilometers an hour. They travel about 180 miles per hour. Equivalent here we have in the US, like an Amtrak that goes maybe 60 miles an hour. So the same speed you could go in a car. What's the public transit like where you live? Let me know in the comment section down below. Where I live, it's pretty fucking abysmal, frankly. I mean, we have a bus line. That's okay. That's all right. We don't have any type of high-speed train or subway. Nothing like that. I don't know. I think it could be a lot better, frankly. I mean, be so much in China to see and do. I think that would be pretty amazing. But I think my partner was looking up the other day, like how hard it is to learn Mandarin, because I think that's the main, language in China, right? I guess it's really hard to learn, so that would be difficult. It'd be cool to, somehow get over there and partner with a, translator or guide and have them, kind of help out with that stuff. So I think China would be amazing. And also, again, another country that has been constantly demonized by the U.S., both on the, Democratic and Republican and liberal side. Synthetic left as well. Let's be honest. Parody in the State Department talking points that there's absolutely no basis. In fact, no basis for claiming that China is committing genocide against the Uyghur Muslim population, which again is a huge, huge fucking claim to make. You don't have any evidence for that. Such a, horrible thing. You don't have any evidence to say China's doing that, then shut the fuck up. You have democracy now, having people on like Adrian Zen's, the kind of go-to source on this issue. His work has been completely debunked. He's a far-right Christian fundamentalist. Far-right Christian fundamentalist, hates China. Also, just Christian right-wing wacko nut. Not sure
almost all of these media outlets and governments are using to claim that China's committing genocide against Uyghurs, when again there's no evidence, no actual evidence to say that. ASPI owns Australian Broadcast Corp. Evil's a TikTok. Yeah, of course, TikTok's evil because it's run by the evil government in China. Look what they're trying to do. I mean, and again, I always think when, these governments or, politicians that are, demonizing these other countries and, saying how bad like TikTok is, like really, like, do you need to really look beyond the borders of the US to have something to call out, like about these big tech companies, how, Facebook works in lockstep with the US government, and how at the behest of the Biden administration, Facebook will now be asking them to censor certain posts on that media platform, and how all these big tech corporations are always willing to do the bidding of the US empire. There's evidence of Uyghurs fighting for ISIS. I think that's definitely possible because, again, wasn't one of the reasons that China started like these re-education, these rehabilitation places for people who were, engaged in kind of acts of terrorism in, I think, Xinjiang province, right? Was because of terrorist acts being committed. And again, this isn't to say that everything China has done or is doing is perfect or, above reproach, but don't make fucking claims of genocide when there's no evidence for that bullshit happening. You're to support just spouting U.S. State Department talking points, being a mouthpiece for imperialism and regime change and ratcheting up, the tensions with China, which we don't need right now. I mean, Jesus Christ, we need to be building international solidarity. My old man was watching the show, held confused as to why they were telling him, yeah, right? Talk about season the means, yeah. I saw there was another useful idiot for the U.S. empire and the CIA is Ashton Kutcher, kind of celebrity movie star figure here in the U.S., and how he was worried about the influence of Chinese, I think, social media based accounts because they might be promoting peace, and he wants the U.S. ones to be promoting war. Guy's fucking cringe. Yeah, exactly. That dude. The dude, where's my car, dude? I'm just a useful idiot for the U.S. empire, imperialism abroad, and I mean, I support people being able to express their opinions and views, but like, if you're gonna like talk shit about other countries or straight up on the payroll, very, very well could be. Again, I'm usually, a big supporter of free speech and free press and all that stuff. But these fucking celebrities who know nothing about U.S. foreign policy, or they're just ignoring it conveniently, and who are just, again, being useful idiots for more war and aggression on the part of the U.S., like they need to shut the fuck up. People like Ashton Kutcher talking shit about China, like they need to stay in their fucking lane. Get back to the movie studio, get back to your family, like shut the fuck up about foreign policy and drinking coffee from your fucking CIA cup on it. I mean, Jesus Christ. CIA is another organization that needs to be abolished. I mean, Talk about fucking unaccountable. But hopefully those potatoes cooked all the way. Some were like a little smaller, some were a little bigger, but they've been in there a while. Can't tell. Yeah, I'm not sure. This is picking up my microphone or my built-in computer microphone. How is the sound quality? I guess I should have asked that at the beginning. Water. Okay, cool. That's good. I'd like to get maybe a little bit upgrade this webcam. This webcam's better than my last laptop. I got one. I had to get one a couple months ago because my old one was just like crashing out all the time. Planned obsolescence, because otherwise I would have kept using it, but it broke, so I had to get a new one. Oh, man. But I saw, what would I have been looking at news-wise? Oh, I did see, this is really sad. Glenn Ford. I don't know if I wish there was a way to share my screen or something, because I'd have this clip I'd like to play of Glenn Ford, who just passed away, one of the founders of the Black Agenda Report, just a constant, strong critic of U.S. empire and imperialism and calling out the corporate duopoly, and one of the few voices during the Obama administration to actually try to hold Obama accountable from, a left anti-imperialist perspective. He passed away, I think, yesterday. Like, it's a huge loss. Like, go on YouTube, go on Google, search some of his writings, some of his work. He's just an amazing voice and activist and revolutionary, and his his voice and his passion and insight will be deeply missed. But what does that say? Oh, that's just the link. Yeah, I wish there's a way you could like share screen or something, maybe with a different streaming app. But anyways, yeah, so that's really sad that Glenn Ford passed away. Rest in power, man. He was. Oh, then I saw this. Biden is going to let the eviction moratorium ban expire. This is on Political. As millions may lose homes. I mean, think about that. Evicted due to COVID on the sign on this place. I could put this in the chat if anybody's interested. Here's the article I'm referencing. StreamYard and OBS is a combo I see a lot of too for streaming, so they can do more than just chat, so they could share screen and share video and stuff. I'm gonna write that down. Thank you for that. StreamYard and okay, OBS for streaming. Cool. Yeah, I've heard of StreamYard before. I think Max Blumenthal did a video last night, a little bit about Cuba, then just saying how he's going to have a weekly show on Rockfin. I think that will be pretty interesting. I've heard like a lot of kind of anti-imperialist voices using Rockfin. Hold on one sec.
my bad. I got a kombucha. Lemon berry. I don't know if I should be plugging the company. I don't know what their working practices are, but again, probably the best way to try to avoid any is to make it yourself, but this brand isn't too bad. Rockfin is running on Amazon Web Services. I don't complain about much, but I'm going to complain about that. And there's other options that they could be using for that. Yeah, boo, Rockfin only. Open Broadcast Studio or something has a steep learning curve. StreamYard's a little easier. It sounded like Max Blumenthal was kind of fumbling his way through it because it was his kind of first time going live and doing that stuff. And he did share his screen a couple of times, so that makes sense if he was using StreamYard. Oh, man. Pretty good. This is the lemon berry flavor. It's kombucha culture, black tea, green tea, kiwi juice, strawberry juice, blueberry juice, raspberry juice, Meyer lemon juice, fresh pressed lime juice, and 100% pure love. That's funny. Organically produced. Swirl gently. Ew. Yeah, I think it does conferencing too. Oh, cool. So you could have more than one person on. That would be nice. I'm going to look into that. I made note of it. All right. There. You saying ew to the kombucha? I don't know. This isn't my favorite flavor. Monthly service. Oh, that sucks. Pretty expensive. This particular brand of kombucha always has these kind of inspirational quotes in the back. It says words of enlightenment. I feel like this is like shit. Probably liberals just eat up these vague kind of generality. I don't know. Quote, it is only when we believe that we can truly see. I mean, well, that's not the worst one. I guess I shouldn't have talked too much shit before reading that. This is from Alejandra Illens Ministry, Fort Worth, Texas. You gotta love it. Yeah, right? Like, that is funny. Oh, man. Well, this was a fun little chat. I'll have to maybe next time try to OBS free. But it sounds like it's harder to use, so maybe it's worth paying the price if it's not crazy amount more. Kombucha. I could drink probably one of these a day, but it would get a little expensive. This was $2. It's on sale. It's usually like $3.25. I feel kind of bougie drinking this, even though Bezos flew to space and could have ended like hunger in the U.S. or homelessness with the fucking stupid trip he took, not even into outer space, right? What's an evaluation? StreamYard has an evaluation. Whew. Yeah, kombucha just well, obviously if the flavor is good, it's going to be good. And then I just helps with digestion a lot, as probiotics in it because it's a fermented food. Part of it's kind of living. You create it from this, you create it from this mother, like this living mother thing, and you have to keep like feeding it. Elderberry kombucha. I don't know if I've had an elderberry flavored kombucha before. That sounds like it could be pretty good though. I'm open to trying pretty much any type of kombucha as long as it's doesn't have any animal products. I'm vegan, but this one's not too bad. Yeah, because this has probiotics, bacillus coagulans, 1 billion organisms, 4 billion organisms, lactobacillus bacterium, 4 billion organisms. So it's a living drink. It's pretty cool. I've seen a lot of that. I think so. Yeah, I think that can be helpful in certain situations, especially for like indigestion and stuff, apple cider vinegar. But I would much rather go the route of, the mother or something like that. And I feel like it's going to taste, better too. Because it takes time. I've brewed it a couple of times, not this flavor, but more basic ones, and it can take up to like a month to get your kombucha from start to finish where it's a good enough flavor for you to want to drink it and put it in the fridge. I mean, it is awesome. You can make a gallon of it for maybe $10, which this is only 16 ounces and it was 3, and it'd be like $24 to get a gallon of these as opposed to making it yourself, maybe $10-12. So again, it just takes more time, but you're saving money. But again, that's a lot of people don't have the time to pursue doing cool shit like that because they're too busy in this shithole capitalist system that we have, just trying to get by and surviving, and that precarity that is a default of capitalism, because it increases profit. You don't want people doing well. You don't want full employment. You want to keep some precarity in there so you're able to exploit the workforce as much as possible in order to increase your profit margin. It's like everything, you can tie politics to basically, and economics to basically everything in life if you wanted to, but you can't think about that shit too much. That's why it's good to do, things that you enjoy, that bring, happiness to you and your family and, beyond. Like drinking kombucha or growing your own food if you're able to, in whatever context that looks like, which I think is a great thing that more people should really learn about a little bit, try it out, see what they like to grow, and just grow from there. Literally, like growing your own food is like, was it Ron Finley, this really cool guy for I think LA, California based guy who planted a bunch of, I think, community gardens in different areas of Los Angeles, I think. And he's like, growing your own food is like, printing your own money. And he's, truly right. My dad picked, and I picked a little bit, like, go get a couple more. I'll show you. Picked a bunch more of these, 10-15 pounds. I'd bring the whole box over here, but I'm too lazy. You're just gonna have to trust me. These Methley plums, check out the color of these. Look at that. You can see like it's just full of life, water, sunlight, vitamins, minerals. This is the biggest tree in terms of like circumference of, its trunk, and as far in terms of how much fruit it produces. This probably has maybe 40, or has had throughout the season, and will continue to pick 40 pounds of plums on it. One tree. You get that at a farmer's market, like you buy that amount of that much fruit, it would probably be say 40 pounds, at least $3 a pound, at least $120, if not more, for this tree that was maybe $30 when we planted it. And only inputs we've given it, we planted it in a hugelkultur, so that means burying the wood, filling in the gaps with grass, branches, leaves, all this stuff, and then putting soil on top of that. You plant your fruit tree or berry bush or whatever else in that, and it's able to feed into those nutrients as they're decomposing. This thing is like super healthy, almost too happy. It's broken itself apart 3 times because it's been loaded with so much fruit. Incredible. One tree. Just think if everybody have that, several of those, or several different fruit trees or nut trees or garden beds or berry bushes in their front yard, like how much food we would be producing on a very small decentralized scale, which is obviously going to be a lot more sustainable and nutrient dense and better for ourselves, better for the planet, better for the ecosystem. It's much easier to grow organically when you grow on a small scale. Turn the oven on. Somehow I forgot to turn the oven off, so those potatoes are going to be extra cooked. But 40 pounds, one fruit tree, like how much food people would be able to grow for themselves if you just did that. Like, no need to buy any bananas or apples or anything in the store right now. Got these super delicious and nutritious, organically grown methyl plums to chew on. And also, because it produces so much, we made jelly or jam with these before, which is, I might have, let me see if I have a jar of it. I think I do. There we go. A little more, maybe a little bit more liquidy than we like, but still very, very delicious and has that nice dark, deep color to it. Yeah. Growing your own food save you so much money. A good jar of jelly, at least where I live, probably $5-6 maybe. I don't know. Anyways, this is going to be a lot better. Saves you money, less waste in the world because you just can it, water bath it in your mason jar. But by far and away, this is the best way to consume them. Easiest way as well. The way that nature intended. Probably ate right close to 20 of these today, honestly. I
Do you know what nectarine variety it is? It's one thing I really liked about the tropics when I was in Hawaii was the tropical fruit that was available, whether it was dragon fruit. We got one of those from the Hilo Farmers Market. It was not good, but you can get really, really good dragon fruit. White Plus, nice. Like good dragon fruit. You could try durian, lychee, rambutan, mangosteen, the queen of fruits. If you ever have the chance to try fresh mangosteen fruit, do it. Jackfruit. I already say durian. Coconut, sugar cane, like chewing on the sugar cane. So good. That's what they, use, or used to use at least. Now they went to like high fructose corn syrup, but sugar cane used to be the primary, sweetener used in a lot of things. And then, wow, that's pretty. Do you do anything to it, like prune it or give it compost or anything like that? You have to water it a lot since it's so hot there. I usually don't like to water my established fruit trees. I feel like they usually don't need it because it usually rains enough here to get them through the drier parts, but it's been almost, maybe has it been over like 40 days since it's rained here in the Pacific Northwest. So I've been giving my fruit trees, my established ones, like this Methley plum, some more water. So good. Those went down super easy. Isn't that a cool bowl? We brought that back from the Big Island. Okay, farmer's market, right? First you're trying to, copper. Like fungus on the fruit? Yeah, like I said, I tried to grow a nectarine here for him in climate zone. I think this is from the USDA, so you might not have the equivalent where you live, but we're like an 8B climate zone. Leaf curl, yeah. That's the same thing, the nectarine plant that I got. It got leaf curl, and then it got too cold in the winter. It just ended up dying. Same with peaches. Peaches did a little bit better, but we had one big peach tree, never did anything, and it was pretty close to the greenhouse, so we cut it down and planted a mulberry a little further out. Which again, that's another delicious fruit, mulberry. My friend has a tree that goes up above his second-story house, so he can get on his roof and literally pick fruit from it. It's like amazing. That's why I also like capitalism as a failed system, because it's just not designed to meet the needs of the people. It's not designed to give people the, material conditions and well-being that they're able to indulge in activities that aren't, generating a profit, because they're able to, they live in a society that values people as human beings and worthy of dignity and respect, and their basic needs being met, as opposed to an economic system, that is just based on generating profit, and people in the environment on which they depend be damned, because we gotta make our money. Yeah, leaf curl. Yeah, that's why I've just been trying to double down on things that I know do well, like these plums. We got another one of these we planted that the deer actually got into this garden recently
friend helped me fix the fence. They jumped over that. They ate some of the stuff, but it's all right. They know where the good is, so they try to get in there. Korean natural farming, a little bit, yeah. KNF, does that have to do with, what is it, like fermenting? Is it brown rice and isn't that one of the KNF methods, is different fermentations that you and then would go use in the garden, right? I mean, that would be pretty cool. And there's definitely, yeah, a lot of different ways to grow food, organically and naturally, and for different crops. You just kind of need to experiment and see what happens. And a lot of food, in my experience, is actually pretty easy to grow, like those zucchinis, like those plums, lettuce, garlic, tomatoes, potatoes, peas, beans, etc. Again, you just want to experiment, like, what do you like eating, and see if you can grow that in your climate. And there's lots of ways, like even if you just have a small little balcony, you could get a pot or a container. That's what I helped my mom set up, a couple of those on her. Grow bags even are really good. Or if you do have a little space, a raised bed or a bed in the ground, or a hugelkultur bed, or a bigger garden, and keep working your way up. Petrochemicals, I know that is insane, right? Like, and yet those aren't, those don't have the warning label, but the organic ones do, and actually costs more to eat food that doesn't have, hasn't been sprayed with nasty chemicals, petro or otherwise. Like, again, that goes back to like capitalism, that is being run for profit. Like, it's cheaper to poison all this food with all these horrible things and then sell that to people than it is to actually maybe do it on a smaller scale, more locally, more decentralized, organically, in more harmony with the with each other and with the natural world. We had a 5-acre organic table. Wow, that sounds amazing. We have a couple of grapevines out where my food force is at my dad's place, and fresh grapes, like right from the vine, amazing, like so much more flavor than store-bought. At least the ones we have are smaller, but wow, table grapes, that's another fruit. Like, you get good high quality organic grapes, I could just mono-meal those, like literally so good. I know, we went to a U-Pick blueberry patch. We have a few blueberries out at this Hobart food forest, as we like to call it, but just not really enough. And you need a good amount of blueberries because they're like so delicious, like fresh, or you put them, in the fridge and eat them after exercising outside or before. So good. So we went a couple of times. I'm probably going to go back next week because my cat Clarence, you want to say hi? I think he does. He's a big boy. That's like Clarence. Ooh, pick your own strawberries. Like, that's another fruit that's. Oh, where's he going? He is a big boy. He's been 20 pounds at his heaviest. I don't think he's as heavy as that now, but any of y'all have any companion animals? We have a couple of kitties. You have a cat, orange cat. Nice. You can be pretty needy sometimes, which is nice, but like our cats, like, they really just do their own thing. They could be outside all day, not caring what anybody else is doing, just sitting in the shade with each other. Which is, I like having two of them because I feel like it gives them more people to, more cats people of their own species to interact with. And then our other cat is the orange cat. Pretty good kombucha. Lemon berry. I don't know if I'd get that one again. Maybe I'll have to try that elderberry that somebody recommended. Yeah, we like growing strawberries too, just at least at this place where I have this, these fruit trees and stuff. There's usually a lot of slugs, and they just really love the strawberries. I found that the second cat isn't a person. Nice. Oh, shoot. Well, I think I'm going to end this. How long is this? Wow, 2 hours. This is pretty fun, though. We talked about a wide range of things, ranging from this book, at least the parts I felt like commenting on. Again, I've read about 110, it's 190 pages, so a little over halfway. BreadTube Serves Imperialism, subtitle, Examining the New Brand of Internet Pseudo-Socialism by Caleb Maupin. We talked about the U.S. foreign policy. We talked about growing food. Yeah, I wonder, do you think that's what that was? That was really strange, right? Like, it had to have been some type of bot or something artificial, right? Like, how do you switch accounts? So, that was nuts. That was nuts. And that was the first time I've only done it. This is my third live stream, I think. Had to turn off those comments, but yeah, that's hate speech, that's fucking homophobia and racism, and yeah, we don't need any of that shit. That's fucked up for sure. So we dealt with that. Talked about kombucha. Saw my cat who's rubbing up on my leg, getting petted right now. Hopefully you realize this wasn't the MAGA shirt, because Make America Great, they were never great. That's a stupid, chauvinistic, racist saying. Like, who is America great for in the past? If it was great for anybody, it was, rich people, particularly rich landowning males, as it, still predominantly is now to varying degrees. But it's never been great for the vulnerable and marginalized, for people of color, indigenous people, LGBTQ, working people, etc. People who speak out against the state and the injustices, but you got me there. Clarence must miss me. He's liking me, pet me back. All right, well, I'll have another one of these. Not sure when. I definitely need to get caught up on some schoolwork tomorrow before I even think about making more videos, but I felt like this is fun, and yeah, it's always good to chat and interact with people that consume this. Now he's licking my foot. Cat tongues feel like little pieces of sandpaper. What the hell? He's still got sharp claws though. He's really sweet. Our other cat is a little bit more shy and reserved, especially around me for some reason. We both got these cats from, adopted them from an animal shelter, and they're definitely members of our family. Just good boys. Anyways, yeah, cats are cool. It's been real. Always good to focus on positive things. So I'll end it on, let's see, Pedro Castillo being sworn in as the next president of Peru. He's a socialist, a Marxist, and I believe he also appointed somebody, with that similar political ideology and outlook as the prime minister, the second most powerful position in that country. So pretty awesome. What socialist governments there: Nicaragua, Venezuela, Bolivia, Cuba, China, North Korea,
Vietnam, right? Who am I missing? I mean, that's pretty good. That's inspiring, right? To hear about, socialists, people who would be in these positions of power, heads of state, getting elected to, work for the working class and against, capitalism and imperialism and forms of oppression, exploitation. So let's end it. Let's end it on that. Peace. Have a good night, all part of the people. Much love.